perfect Thanksgiving present for you there. Great performance by Arsenal.
Absolutely ideal. I mean, this is a team that's unbeaten so far this season. First half was a bit cagey, a bit sparring-like, I thought. But then it was second half, Arsenal asserted themselves. If anything, I mean, Mikel Arteta could have scored a hat-trick of headers. So they could have scored more. It was a really impressive... It was a statement win for Arsenal. Now, you can argue at this stage of the Champions League, they're both going to qualify. We both know that. So psychologically, I think perhaps these games are difficult for players. But there was more than pride at stake last night. It was a time you can plant a flag, you know. Mm-hmm. So huge win. And also as well, what last night showcased was the depth of Arsenal's squad. Trossard going off wasn't a hammer blow because they're bringing on Calafiori, they're bringing in Noni Madueke, gets his first goal for Arsenal. It just shows that Arsenal can cope with injuries. Huge call as well, you know, to take out Hincapié and also Calafiori from left back. He replaced the left-hand side with Mosquera and Miles Lewis-Skelly last night. So that in itself was another masterpiece for Arsenal in terms of using the squad and rotating. And I think that's where they've fallen short in the last few seasons. So a very, very good night for the Gunners. That's why I got my jumper on.
There we go. Stefano?
Yeah, I do think that you mentioned the depth, and it's kind of what everyone expected Liverpool to have, this depth with all of these signings.
Don't spoil our moment by talking about Liverpool.
Arsenal have shown that this is the depth because they have a more balanced squad. And my biggest thing about Arsenal all season long was that if they continue to defend this way, they can compete on all levels, on all fronts, in the Champions League, in the Premier League. With Gabriel out, with some of the other injuries and some of the other issues, have to replace. You talked about the replacement on that back line. I thought, well, this is an opportunity for Bayern to show that they're still the elite in Europe. Mm-hmm. Arsenal, absolute. When you talk about statement wins, to do this without Gabriel, they're maybe the best center back in the entire world right now. To be able to do this and dominate Bayern to this level, a team that has been scoring against everyone, I think that is even more impressive than what we saw. A North London derby domination, a Bayern Munich now domination, continuing on against Chelsea. This could be a statement and a banner week for Arsenal that will push them forward throughout the entire season.
OK, let's go to Mikel Arteta and hear what he had to say after the game.
What pleased you the most about that win?
Probably the overall performance and the way we dominated the game, the way we had to adapt to what they do, to their quality. They are a super well-coached team, and yeah, it's not a coincidence they didn't lose before today. So we have to raise the standards. We knew that this game was going to require a different dimension of performances, and I think individually we were exceptional.
Bayern historically have been a team Arsenal have struggled against. So a win like this tonight, does it just go to show even more so the progress that you're making as a team?
Hopefully, yes, and he will bring more confidence and more trust to the players. And we made changes, and whoever it is, with all the injuries that we still have, perform in an incredible way. So, yeah, I'm so pleased. I know the difficulty of the match that we played and how much they demand in his actions, and I thought we were excellent.
They dominated that second half. They were outstanding. Like Mikel Arteta he said they were exceptional. Does this win prove that they can compete, they could win the Champions League, and also they're doing so well in the Premier League as well?
I think being a tunnel reporter, especially last year in terms of doing that exact role in the Champions League and understanding the words that are used by managers, you start to develop an understanding for what they're really trying to say in between the lines. And there was words that Mikel Arteta used yesterday, playing the best team in the world. The importance of this game, the victory in terms of the confidence it will build. And I want to just focus on those three factors. The reason why he's identifying Bayern as the best team in the world is not only because of the standard they set for themselves, but the confidence, of course, that is going to then insert into his team. There's an actual belief now that Arsenal can definitively say they're the best team in the world. And they might have internally in that locker room had that conversation within themselves to be like, there's nobody in Europe that can really stand up to us on our day. But then going and demonstrating it against what they say arguably is Europe's best, I believe has asserted a different level of confidence in this team. And this will be a real turning point. People can have their question marks about Arsenal and their trajectory overall and whether or not after Christmas can they handle the pressure and can they close out a season. But I think every point that they have questioned themselves throughout the rest of the season, Mikel Arteta is going to go back to this week and say, well, look who you guys managed to do across 7 days. And if they complete the trifecta by beating Chelsea on the weekend, who's right now their closest rivals, Mikel Arteta will definitively say to himself, and it will insert a different level of confidence into those players that they can win all fronts.
To To your point, JD, I thought it was interesting what Declan Rice said after the game as well. He said the mentality has changed.
Yeah.
There are now more leaders in this team. So I think that was the biggest question mark, alongside the depth of squad, was the mentality of Arsenal. And I think that is what we're starting to see. First half, I thought they paid Bayern Munich maybe a little bit too much respect, but in a way, that's a laughable statement from me. This is a team that's only dropped 2 points, who are unbeaten this season, so you absolutely should pay them respect. But you've also got to have that belief in yourself. I think that's what Dec was saying after the game last night.
I just want to say, there's what's changed about this Arsenal team in comparison to the previous years, because there's been actually previous years where I feel like they've looked more fluid. Everyone could talk about the defensive sort of efficiency they see now and that collectiveness, but there have been previous years under the Mikel Arteta regime where Arsenal probably looked better going forward. But what they have now is a number of ways in which they can beat you. They can beat you. Example, there was games at the beginning of that game yesterday, they were maybe struggling just to settle into it. What do they rely on again? Set pieces, so they can assert themselves, their dominance back into this game and create. And there was like a spell where they had a number of set pieces over and over and over again. And what it was doing was creating momentum. And they rely on the fact that, you know, they have these super subs now, like Martinelli, who can come off the bench and change the dynamic of the game. Trossard, if he steps out, then Madueke can step in. I mean, what other point during Mikel Arteta's regime would Bukayo Saka have been taken off while it's 1-1?
Stefano, with this next test they've got against Chelsea on Sunday, is it a case of if they win that, we could really be thinking, look, they're going to be 9 points clear in the Premier League, depending on where Manchester City go with their game against Leeds? Or is it a case of, look, let's relax, it's only end of November, December?
Yeah, I mean, look, it still is December, and
Yeah.
we have to kind of take that all into context. But there is no better place to be if you're Arsenal where you want to be. If you're able to get this across the line against Chelsea, you assert your dominance. And I think that you were mentioning just the mentality, Geoff. That's been the banter over Arsenal for several years now, that they have the ability, they have the players, but they don't have the mentality to get it across the line.
Anybody that uses that, though, they don't really
yeah,
understand.
yeah,
They're not really watching football.
Yeah,
They're kind of living off narratives.
What's that?
That this is the mentality of this team is the same mentality of previous years. The teams that collapsed previously is not the same group of players that you can see vividly with your own eyes.
Without a doubt, but that's still
it's halfway house. Stefano, you're right about not having the players, because they haven't had the players previously. I think it is fair to question this group of players, which is largely the same as last season and the season before. When they continually come second, they haven't got over the line, you can question that mentality.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. That's been the banter, and I understand that it's a completely different team, but we know how that goes, and we know how narratives work, and that's kind of been the narrative around Arsenal the last several years, and they've kind of started to change that this year because of depth and because of the players. I don't
think you understand. JD and I are Arsenal fans. It's not banter.
Well,
it's not funny. It's not funny when it's our team.
You guys are at the top of the league, top of the Champions League, and you're still finding a way to be the victim here.
It's not a victim. Let me tell you exactly what it is. It's comparing yesterday's mistakes to the current group of players that's here today. There were, for example, a couple of seasons ago, in terms of when in Mikel Arteta's regime, the first time he actually built a proper title chase, the reason why Arsenal lost that was, and we could turn a point, the second Saliba went out injured, throughout that season, Arsenal's defence was never the same again. They dropped points at Southampton and West Ham, and the title chase almost left them. The confidence berated them almost instantly. Other years, they've lost key players at key times, especially in the forward line. You can definitely identify that last year. I would say this point is that they are the deepest squad. They don't necessarily have the best 11 in terms of on a day you might arguably say Chelsea might have a better 11 or Liverpool might have a better starting 11 on paper. But what this team does have is they have a better 22 than anybody else across Europe. And I've said this throughout. It doesn't matter who comes out, the next player that's coming in is going to provide a different level of competition.
And the other reason why Arsenal fans won't be saying, OK, you know, it's cigar time, look at the week we've had, North London derby. I mean, Tottenham was so poor, it wasn't even a test. That was a big test last night. Chelsea is a completely different test, completely different style of football. Enzo Maresca will set traps all over the pitch, the pace that they've got, the exciting individuals, and coming off with their own fantastic win in midweek against Barcelona as well. It's been a fantastic week for football, I've got to say. Great football to watch. And, you know, we've got 1 versus 2 in the Premier League at the weekend. Fantastic to watch.
Yeah, we'll see as well, because Arsenal pass this first test, Chelsea pass this first test in the Champions League. It's who can pass this test on the Sunday. What happened to Bayern in the second half? What went wrong for them?
Arsenal.
Yeah.
They got Arsenal set pieces. They dominated the midfield, Arsenal. And also as well, they bypassed the press. Arsenal weren't afraid to mix it up. They were quite happy to go long as well. So look, it's not a case of that Bayern Munich were poor. Arsenal were that good last night. They were impressive. Neuer did not have his best night, both on the first goal and also on the third as well. He really did not look like the force he has always been. So I think more worryingly, I mean, JayDee alluded to it, that's 5 set pieces they've conceded, but it's 5 set pieces in a row. The last 5 goals they've conceded have been set pieces when that goal went in, that's got to be attended to. So it's clearly not a case of hit the panic button, not by a million miles away. Also, as well, what Arsenal did last night, Mikel Arteta, one of the best players on the planet right now, they completely subdued him. You know, he assisted for the goal, and it was a great assist from Kimmich's raking pass. But at the same time, he wasn't involved that much at all. So Arsenal did a job on them, and Bayern, they couldn't respond as they have previously at the Emirates.
I just think tactically, and I don't want to call it arrogance because Vincent Kompany has every right to feel fully confident about his team and the way they displayed this year, especially their fluid attacking football, but they never made any adjustment. In the first 15 minutes, they was very comfortable in London. They were very comfortable. They very much asserted themselves, which they've done in every game this season. Arsenal were sitting off them, and rightfully so, setting traps in the right spaces and when to accelerate and when to go as not just an individual, but as a group. And I thought in the second half, Declan Rice made reference to this when he was doing his post-match interview. The references in terms of finding the spaces and understanding where the players were dropping into. Arsenal became more accustomed to what Bayern were trying to do, rather than Bayern being accustomed to what Arsenal were trying to do. And I think Arsenal's thought process was the first 15, 20 minutes, let's actually see what this team can do. Let's sit in a low block, let's make sure we're compact, let's make sure we're tight and hard to break down. And then the next bit is that we'll then accelerate, we'll then assert a bit of pace into the game. And once they asserted that pace and went up another level, I think a common advantage usually for Premier League teams. You usually find European teams either sink or swim. And Bayern, unfortunately, were floundering for a little bit. Once their weaknesses were exposed, they were then found in a situation where they had to try to recover and they couldn't.
We saw Harry Kane back in North London, Stefano. We saw the effects of Saliba and Mosquera on him. He wasn't able to get stuck in the game, was he?
No, not quite. And again, the season that he's had, I think he's entitled to have one match where things don't go well, and I think that was more because of Arsenal, not so much of what Bayern Munich were doing. For me, it's still one of the best attacks, if not the best attack in all of Europe. My bigger issue with Bayern, and I think that it's kind of going by the wayside because of all the success that they've had, is that they are conceding goals in a lot of matches in the Bundesliga and in the Champions League. They are conceding a lot of goals. The midfield continuously gets run over on the backside of that midfield. So I think that is something to look at for them. It's like you said, it's not panic station yet. This is still a team that can go out and go on another incredible run like they have, not losing any games and scoring tons of goals. But this is a wake-up call that they are at the elite, but still maybe not at that level defensively and in the midfield. As far as attack is concerned, I'm not worried. They're going to score goals. They're going to score a ton of goals. And Harry Kane is going to continue to have a historic season. That's not what I'm worried about. It's more on the other end of the pitch.
Are they no longer the best team in the world?
No,
have they been replaced by Arsenal?
No, I still think they're the best team in the world. Because if I was to take out arguably Bukayo Saka out of that team, I mean, Lucho Diaz was absent, which was a key component.
Yes.
Mikel Arteta, is going to play better than that. Harry Kane is a world-class striker, arguably the most complete striker in world football.
I would argue that Noni Madueke, when he's been playing, he's come in for Bukayo Saka and done brilliantly. In fact, last night, believe it or not, was Bukayo Saka's first assist of the season.
But also,
so they've got the depth of squad.
I would also turn around and say to you, they're arguably missing their most important player alongside Harry Kane, which is Jamal Musiala. So they're still missing key components to come back and improve.
That wasn't the question. The question was, are they the best team in the world right now?
Yes.
Those players that aren't playing are irrelevant. Are they the best team in the world?
Bayern Munich have been way more consistent than any other team across Europe, so they're the best team in the world. One game doesn't define that.
Well, I mean, right now you have to argue that Arsenal are that seems like an Arsenal fan deflecting from. Yes, we are the best team in the world right now.
I've just watched them over the last 20 odd games,
but we've also watched Arsenal not lose any games as well.
I've also watched Arsenal struggle at Sunderland. I've also watched Arsenal go to certain.
And we watched Bayern Munich struggle at Union Berlin the other day.
Okay.
As Vincent Kompany said, we'd rather be the best team at the end of the season than in November.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount Plus.